Let's get into Barbara Lee kicking off her Senate campaign to replace Diane Feinstein. Representative Barbara Lee, a longtime favorite of liberal Democrats, confirmed Tuesday that she will run for the U.S. Senate, being vacated by retiring Senator Diane Feinstein. What up, Mike? What up, Mike? Salute everybody. For those who say my time has passed, well, when does making change go out of style? I don't quit. I don't give up. Come on, that's not in my DNA. Lee said in a 3-minute campaign kickoff video posted online early Tuesday morning. Because when you stand on the side of justice, you don't quit. If they don't give you a seat at the table, you bring a folding chair for everyone. The announcement by the veteran Oakland politician, 76, was not surprising because she told the Congressional Black Caucus last month that she planned to run for the seat and filed paperwork creating a Senate fundraising committee. So, sorry, I keep getting these text messages. Somebody's texting me about something kind of serious. I'm all good, but so I'm just a bit distracted. But yeah, so Barbara Lee, again, she's 76, so she's a bit up there herself. So she likely, if she were to get this seat, would, probably only do 1 full term, maybe 2. But that's definitely going to be an issue in terms of highlighting some type of a political difference. Maybe there's a younger, sharper, more able individual who's ready to take this seat, but that'll definitely be something that will be used against her politically as she does run. But we're absolutely going to see more people make announcements that they're going to come out for this. Lee's political activism dates back more than half a century. She worked on the 1972 presidential campaign of Shirley Chisholm, the first Black congresswoman, and on Black Panther Party co-founder Bobby Seale's mayoral race in Oakland the following year. After serving in the California legislature, Lee was elected to Congress in 1998. I was 4. Well, 6. I was 6. I was born in 92. Oh, shit. My ass. I can't even add in my head. Look at me. She gained notoriety as the sole member of Congress to vote against giving President George W. Bush authorization to use military force after the September 11 terrorist attacks. She did gain a lot of notoriety for that. Now that, when that happened, I was very young. I wasn't even paying attention to politics yet. Nor were most millennials at that time. We were just too young. But that absolutely is one of the highlights of her career in terms of being able to go against the grain and do what she thought was right instead of what politically made the most sense at the time in terms of what was popular and things along those lines. So that definitely is going to be a plus. But again, I think that really the biggest thing for her is for Barbara Lee is going to be her age. She's definitely not somebody who's going to, if she were to win the seat, she's definitely not someone who will hold that seat for, decades like Diane Feinstein. She would be there once, maybe twice, but probably once. And again, more and more elderly people, and by that, I guess maybe I'm being a little silly, but more and more age is becoming a topic of political discourse. Should we have an age limit? And if not, people are absolutely just saying like, hey, maybe it's time for some new faces in Congress because, I'm 31 years old. A lot of these people have been here my entire life, or longer. So again, that's really just becoming a broader issue across the board. Really, no matter what it is that you stand for. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, people more and more are putting that into their political discourse. Lee will face challenges in what is expected to be a highly competitive race that already includes Democratic reps Adam B. Schiff of Burbank and Katie Porter of Irvine, both of whom are among the top fundraisers in Congress. Lee has easily won re-election because of her district's overwhelming Democratic tilt, and she never needed to focus on raising campaign cash in those efforts. What up, Aaron? My St. Louis accent is so thick, I say Aaron. I'm not even trying to say it like that either. We don't say Aaron, we say Aaron. The idea is to help level the playing field for someone who hasn't had to raise huge amounts in the past for her races locally and doesn't have the war chest that her opponents have. Okay. So again, now let's take a look at some of the people in this area. So Brakal and Dan Newman, another longtime Bay Area Democratic operative who is leading the outside effort, have extensive ties with donors focused on criminal justice reform, who could be key to boosting Lee's prospects, particularly against Schiff, a former federal prosecutor. For example, Brokaw has worked on multiple campaigns with Patricia Quillen, the wife of billionaire Netflix leader Reed Hastings. Quillen, who shuns the spotlight, has spent millions to fight a proposition that would have reclassified some misdemeanors as felonies, to support a ballot measure that would have reinstated affirmative action in California, and to support the election of George Gascon as Los Angeles County District Attorney in a race that was viewed as a referendum on law enforcement reform. Okay, so again, this, like I mentioned before, this really will be the biggest thing. The biggest question will be her age and whether people are really going to see if she's the right person to replace her. So, you know, like if there's somebody who's younger and charismatic and has a relatively decent track record, maybe they've been in city council, maybe they're even in the House or the state House, state Senate, somewhere along those lines. I think that they definitely would have a stronger edge over Barbara Lee, just in terms of people looking further down the line. Lee attempted to stymie the argument by telling supporters she would serve only one term. Okay, see, again, that's exactly it. Well, at least she knows. So then, I mean, if that's the case, if she were to do one term, then we would absolutely, she would be an incumbent who we could get kind of some of the most out of in terms of pushing them in the right direction. Or it could be the 180 where we don't get anything out of her because, you know, she's only going to be in there for one term. So who gives a damn? But, you know, you kind of start to see when people know that they're not going to be running for reelection, kind of their personal moralities will come out in a variety of ways. Think about what happened. I can't recall their names off the top of my head, but think about a number of the Republican House members and Senate members who, when they were not going to run for reelection, they started openly criticizing Donald Trump and saying, you know, he's childish or he acts like a kid or blah, 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 whatever it is, or he doesn't support democracy. We started to see those types of things when they were on their way out. So if Barbara Lee were to have one term, then I think that she would absolutely be somebody who we should be blowing up her phone lines as much as possible. Take advantage of that. You know what I mean? Especially in a state like California. But again, I think that politically speaking, that's a pretty good angle because she's clearly aware of what her biggest obstacle would be. And she's not making a big deal out of it. She's like, yeah, I know I'm a bit up there, but I would just do one term so that we can, you know, maybe accomplish X, Y, and Z, which is effective because whether it's politics or sales or anything else, or even just like regular life social situations, when you act like something is a huge deal, well, people are going to feel like it's a huge deal. But when you can just kind of brush something off, then people will kind of feel that confidence. So I'm not going to, you know, I won't say that her can't. Thus far, you know, I don't think she's a weak candidate at all. But again, there's still plenty of time. So we'll see. Okay, so there's just a couple more paragraphs from this. So, all right. So what you say, Aaron? Yeah. Again, like you know, I don't think that Barbara Lee is going to be a candidate who is really going to draw much ire from anyone. You know, I just don't really see that happening. Other than, you know, obviously Republicans will be like, oh, well, she's a Democrat, blah, blah, blah. But I don't really see a lot of people having that much issue with her other than maybe like, hey, we need a younger candidate, which, again, she seems to have addressed rather well by just like putting it right out front saying, yeah, I'm 76, but I'm only going to do this once. So I think this will definitely be interesting. Well, I mean, not I think. This is absolutely going to be one of the hottest and most important and most publicized Senate races in the country, without a doubt. I mean, one, it's California, and two, Diane Feinstein is retiring, and she's been in office long before I was born. So again, let's read these last few paragraphs, and we'll move on. In recent history, candidates from the San Francisco Bay Area have been much more successful than Southern Californians in being elected to California's premier statewide political posts. Among them, Vice President Kamala Harris, elected as State Attorney General, and then to the U.S. Senate. Governor Gavin Newsom, former Governor Jerry Brown Feinstein, and former Senator Barbara Boxer. The dominance is partly driven by the region's concentration of liberal voters and high turnout, even though it's less populous than Southern California. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're definitely going to keep our eyes on this. We're in an area where representation is frequently the most important criterion as we choose leaders. If you put together the votes from Northern California and African-American votes statewide, and you add to that progressives who remember her vote on the Iraq War, she's got a lane. She does. She absolutely does. Her being the sole person to vote against the Iraq War at the time, you know, when everyone else was for it, and by everyone else I mean, you know, representatives in the country, political representatives. That's absolutely going to be a very strong calling card for her campaign, because it does say a lot about her. I mean, it does. It really does. Even if you're, you know, someone who maybe was for that war, if you're one of the very few people who still is in favor of the Iraq War, you know, anyone who goes against the grain that hard, what you cannot say about them is that they're weak or inauthentic, especially for something like that. So, yeah, I think that I agree. I think that she has a pretty solid campaign.